Introduction. Looking after the eggs or the young until they are independent, different from predators, is known as parental care. It is a very important factor for survival. Animals exhibit a great diversity in caring for their eggs and young during their development. Perhaps no group shows more diversity than do the amphibians, especially those living in tropical regions. Aenurans shows much greater diversity than eurydials and apodons. The methods of caring by amphibian generally fall under two broad categories. 1. Protection by nests, nurseries or shelters, and 2. Direct caring by parent. 1. Protection by nests, nurseries or shelters. Amphibians have evolved countless interesting methods to give protection to their defenseless eggs and larvae from predators. A selection of site. Many amphibians lay eggs in protected, moist microhabitats on land. Many tropical frogs and toads lay eggs on land near water. Species of Phyllomagusa, Rhachophorus, hyaloids, etc. glue their eggs to foliage hanging over water. Rhachophorus malabaricus in India and Chiromantis of Africa also deposit their spawn on tress. Many tress frogs lay eggs in water that accumulate in epiphytic tropical plants. Free from reach of aquatic egg predators in their microhabitats, the tadpoles on hatching drop into water beneath to complete metamorphosis. B. Defending eggs or territories. Males of green frog Ranoclamitans and other species maintain territories and attack small intruders to defend eggs. Male or female even guards the eggs. In Mantiphrina robusta, the male actually sits over and holds with hands the elastic gelatinous envelope containing eggs numbering 17. Some tree frogs laying eggs above water may sit beside the egg or rest on top of them. Removal of guarding frogs may death of eggs. See direct development. In some terrestrial a tree frog, such as Arthroleptus, hylodes and Hylonebulosa, the eggs hatch directly into little frogs, thus avoiding larval mortality. In the red-backed salamander Plethodon cineris, the hatchlings are miniatures of the adults. Defoam nests. Many amphibians convert copious mucus secretions into nest for their young. In Japan's tree frogs Rhacophorus schlegeli, the mating couple digs a hole or tunnel into which eggs are left in a fourthy mass to avoid desiccation. During rains hatching tadpoles are washed down. The female of South American tree frog, Leptodcetylus mystacinus, stirs up a fourthy mass of mucus, fills it in holes near water and lay eggs in them. The tadpoles developing in these improvised nests can readily enter water. Some aenurans floating on water, mud nests. In Brazilian tree frogs, Hylofaber, the male digs a little crater-like hole or nursery in mud in shallow water, in which the female lays her eggs. The nest is 30 centimeters in diameter and 5 to 8 centimeters deep. Tadpoles hatch within this relatively safer barrier and develop until they are large enough to find themselves F-tree nests. The South American tree frog, Phyllomagusa hypochondrials, lay eggs in a folded leaf nest with margins glued together by cloacal secretions. The tadpoles when formed falls straight into water below. Another tree frog, Hyla or resinphyctrix, lines a shallow tree cavity with beeswax obtained from the hives of certain stingless bees. Female lays eggs when this cavity is filled with rainwater. Here, the young develop relatively free from predators, gelatinous bags. In Phrynoxylus spiroi large eggs are enclosed in a sausage-shaped transparent gelatinous membranous bag, secreted by female and left in mountain streams. Salamandrella kieserlini, a small aquatic salamander, also deposits 50 to 60 small eggs in a gelatinous bag which is fastened to aquatic plants. 2. Direct caring by parents. A. Coiling around eggs. In Congo eel Amphuima and certain Caecilians like Ichthyophis and Hypogeiphis, The female lays large eggs in burrows in damp soil and carefully guards them by coiling her body around them until they hatch. The female of Salamander plethodon also coils round the eggs, which are laid in small packages in the hollow of a rotten log or beneath a rock. In Megalobotrachus maximus, it is the male who coils the eggs. B. Transferring tadpoles to water. Some species of small frogs, e.g., Phylobates, Arthroleptus, Palobates, Dendrobates, in both tropical Africa and South America, deposit their eggs on the ground. The tadpoles hatching out fasten themselves to the back of one of the parents with their sucker-like mouth and transported to water, see eggs glued to body. Many amphibians, instead of remaining with the eggs, carry the eggs glued to their body. In the dusky salamander, Desmognathus fuscus, female carries the string of eggs coiled around her neck, until they have hatched. In Sri Lankan tree frog, Rhacophorus reticulatus, the eggs are glued to the belly of female. An interesting case is that of the European midwife toad, Olintz obstetricans. When the female lays eggs, the male entangles them around his hind gills. He carries them with him until they are ready to hatch. At that time he releases the tadpoles into nearest water. D. Organs as brooding pouches. Male of the terrestrial South American Darwin-ness frogs, Rhinoderma darwinae, pushes at least 2 fertilized eggs into his relatively large vocal sacs. Here, they undergoes complete development to emerge out as fully formed froglets. In West African tree frog, Hylambates breviceps, the female carries eggs in her buccal cavity. In Arthroleptus, it is the male who keeps the larvae in his mouth. The only known case of gastric incubation in vertebrates is found in the Australian frog Rheobotrachus silus. He female keeps the eggs in her stomach. The tadpoles are expelled through mouth after metamorphosis, eggs in back pouches. In one group of tree frogs called marsupial frogs or toads, the female carries the eggs on her back, either in an open oval depression, a closed pouch, or in individual pockets. The eggs develop into miniature frogs before they leave their mother's back. In the Brazilian tree toad Hylagoeldi or Cryptobotrachus evansi, the posterior part of the back of female forms a sort of incipient brood pouch in which the eggs remain exposed. In Nototrema, gastro, in one group of tree frogs called marsupial frogs or toads, the female carries the eggs on her back, either in an open oval depression, a closed pouch, or in individual pockets. The eggs develop into miniature frogs before they leave their mother's back. In the Brazilian theca, the eggs are covered by skin forming a single large brood pouch which opens posteriorly in front of the cloacal aperture. F. Viviparity. Some anorans are ovoviviparous. They retain eggs in the ovitux and the female give birth to living young. African toads Nectophrenoides and Pseudophrine give birth to little frog. The European salamander Salamandra salamandri produces 20 or more small young, while the apeline Salamander essator gives birth to 1 or 2 fully developed young. Viviparity is widespread in order Gymnophona, and 3 out of 4 families have this mode of reproduction. Common examples are Typhlonex, Jatripetes, Dermophis, etc.